Hello, my name is Kelsey Prince. This is my presentation on sexual harassment in the workplace for Dr. Green's Business Law and Ethics class, spring 2016. So within the last decade, women have come to the workplace. More women have entered into the workplace, so it increases vulnerability to harassment. Reports in the media usually only highlight malum se, criminal acts of rape, assault, and molestation, while less severe forms such as verbal abuse, lewd emails, physical touching, or unwelcome comments on behavior or dress are given free rein because they don't qualify as criminal acts. Knowing the legal risks associated with sexual harassment provides the starting place for management to reduce or eliminate liability by responding appropriately to the existing legal landscape. So what is sexual harassment? Unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature constitute as sexual harassment when an employment decision affecting that individual is made because the individual submitted to or rejected the unwelcome conduct. The unwelcome conduct unreasonably interferes with an individual's work performance or creates an intimidating, hostile, or abusive work environment. Certain behaviors such as conditioning promotions, awards, training, and other job benefits upon acceptance of unwelcome actions of a sexual nature are always wrong. These behaviors include pranks, repeated teasing, whether it's via email or in person, touching, grabbing, repeatedly. Sometimes accidents happen and we're all trying to get to the copy machine and we accidentally touch someone where we probably didn't mean to. But when it happens over and over again, that is sexual harassment. You can tell that that person is really just trying to do it intentionally. Also, no means no. If someone's trying to get you to go out all the time and you've already said no, we don't want to hang out, and they're trying to get you to go out all the time off duty, that can also be seen as sexual harassment. When gifts are given, whether if they're sexually suggestive or not, it might suggest like romantic intentions, and that can also be sexual harassment. Sexually suggestive gestures towards other people, I'm not going to give you any examples of those. And also, if you post, cartoons or other materials in the workplace or pictures that are demeaning, that is sexual harassment. Also, if y'all are out off duty and unwelcome conduct of a sexual nature rolls over from the weekend, that is also sexual harassment. Victims of sexual harassment can be man or woman. The victim can also be the same sex of the harasser. The harasser can be anyone you work with, supervisor, coworker, other employee, or a non-employee who has a business relationship with the department. This happens a lot in waitressing whenever, this happens a lot whenever customers will sexually harass employees. So why we don't report, why victims don't report. People are less likely to report incidences of sexual harassment, usually out of fear of retaliation and backlash. They could be identified as a troublemaker or just seeking attention. The victim also becomes the accused, as though it was their fault. Oh, you shouldn't dress like that. Oh, you shouldn't talk like that. Whatever it is, it's about them, not the harasser. Their colleagues or supervisors might start being hostile towards them or isolate them. They also might become targets of mobbing or relational aggression, so where groups gang up on one person. So the statistics, according to Aware, this is an 8-year-old survey. Keep in mind, 500 respondents from 92 different companies. Over half have experienced some form of sexual harassment. 27% were harassed by their colleague, while 17% were harassed by their superior. 12% were threatened with termination if they failed to comply with the requests. Every business needs a policy. They need a sexual harassment policy to protect themselves, their clientele, and their employees. The policy document needs to define sexual harassment and provide a clear mechanism for reporting claims. There should be training for employees about the legal definition of sexual harassment and the company's policy regarding sexual harassment. Also, there should be thorough investigations of allegations to provide security. For many businesses and organizations, preventing sexual harassment and defending employees from sexual harassment charges have become key goals of legal decision making. So what does the law say? Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 states that discrimination based on someone's religion, race, or sex, or national origin is illegal. So if an employer fails or refuses to hire or discharge somebody, or otherwise to discriminate against an individual as far as payment, terms, conditions, or privileges, if they're limited or segregated, or classify his or her employees or applicants in any way which would deprive or tend to deprive any individual of employment opportunities or otherwise adversely affect his status as an employee. This law also applies to employment agency practices, labor organizations, and training programs. But what the law doesn't say, there's a lot that it doesn't include, actually, because laws surrounding sexual harassment does not prohibit simple teasing, offhand comments, or minor isolated incidents. Workplace harassment is considered to be illegal only if it's frequent or severe. Legal and social understandings of sexual harassment varies by culture. You see this a lot if someone comes to America from a country where women don't have as many rights as men. There becomes a male superiority complex, and they often take it out on other employees. The victim doesn't necessarily have to be the one directly harassed. If they find it offensive and they see it going on, they are still victims of sexual harassment. There may or may not be other witnesses, which is why it's really important to investigate those allegations. The perpetrator might be unaware that the behavior is offensive, which is why it's very important for, if you are getting harassed, to stand up for yourself and say, no, that's not okay. Otherwise, they might think that, oh, well, Sally Sue thought it was funny, well, if just because they did doesn't mean you do. The incident can also take place when the victim is completely oblivious. The victim might not realize they're getting special attention, or they might think that the perpetrator is, well, they joke around like that a lot, and so they think it's just sort of their character, when in reality it isn't. There are different types of harassers. There's the public ones who are they are out there with their seductive or sexist attitudes in the workplace. They don't care who sees. There's the private. They cultivate a restrained and respectable image on the surface, but when they're alone with their target, their demeanor changes. They might be aggressive, or they might also play the pity card to get them to do what they want. Predatory. They get sexual thrills from humiliating others. They might become involved in sexual extortion, and they frequently pick on targets just to see how they're going to respond. They just try to get a rise out of you. Dominance, the most common type. They engage in harassing behavior for an ego boost. Oh yeah, I totally did this or that to that person, and oh yeah, man, that's what's up. They get a pat on the back or whatever. They get an ego boost. Strategic or territorial, they seek to maintain privilege in jobs or physical locations. This is often seen whenever a man or a woman is working in an environment which is predominantly the other sex occupation. Street. Street is performed in public by strangers, including verbal and nonverbal behavior. This is usually catcalling. And for all of those who are catcalling, I'd like to say, whoever you're trying to call out, that's someone's mom, that's someone's daughter, that's someone's sister. If you don't have a mom or a daughter or a sister, then that's someone's girlfriend. And regardless, they're not going to be impressed or flattered by what you're saying. These behaviors can affect victims in numerous ways. They become objectified and humiliated by scrutiny and gossip. They have decreased school or work performance as a result of stress conditions. They also often feel like they have to be on the defensive most of the time. They might quit going to work completely out of fear of harassment repetition. Their character and reputation are defamed because of it. It does affect sexual life and relationships. Their whole life becomes up for public scrutiny. That's part of becoming the accused. They also have psychological stress and health impairment, along with many others. The health effects can range from depression to suicide. Usually because of a feeling of powerlessness, shame, and guilt are the main ones. But it can also cause, PTSD, eating disorders, alcoholism, or addiction, because they might feel angry or violent or betrayed and violated. So in conclusion, there's lots of ways that businesses can prevent or avoid charges of sexual harassment. According to the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants Journal of Accountancy, they have a checklist, and these are some of the things pre-loss that businesses can do to prevent or avoid charges of sexual harassment. Your senior management needs to be trained in employment practices. An educational program to help employees understand each other's differences should be put in place. Federal and state guidelines on sexual harassment and discrimination, where everyone can see them, need to be posted. It's sort of like having a sign that says, "Keep off of the grass." If you don't have that sign there and someone walks on the grass, you can't be mad at them. But if you do have that sign there and someone walks on the grass anyway, they're deliberately disobeying. They're blatantly breaking the rule. And if you have those signs posted, no one can plead ignorance to your policy. Make sure you're following equal employment opportunity hiring practices, and definitely adhere to American Disabilities Act. The employee handbook, including clearly outlined sexual harassment and discrimination policies, needs to be given during orientation. First week, first day. Should be given. People also need to know of the available resources on reporting sexual harassment incidences. You need to maintain appropriate employment practices liability insurance in case something does happen. It doesn't come back on you. Here are some of my references. I just want to say thank you for watching this video. Sexual harassment in the workplace is something that is personal to me. I have been a victim of sexual harassment in the workplace, and if you are experiencing sexual harassment in the workplace, I just want to say it's not your fault. It's not because of how you look or how you dress or what you talk or how you talk. And I want to say to do something about it, and not necessarily just quit or find another job. Find people who, if it's your coworker, tell your supervisor. If you think there's going to be, discrimination from your supervisor for it, go to other coworkers. You're probably not the only one. Thank you.